happening at 20 degrees in the water sign of Scorpio. November's new moon on the 12th or 13th, depending on your time zone, will be one of passion and intensity. And with the moon being in the sign represented by the Scorpion, known for its influences on our collective and personal transformation, intimacy, shadow sides, and shared resources, this lunation will definitely be one that can tend to bring about hidden or avoided aspects of the psyche to the forefront of our minds, stimulating passion and sometimes intense interactions, but ultimately holding a mirror to the root of our actions. Hello friends, it's your girl Alina, and in this one we will be talking about the 5 things you need to know all around this upcoming new moon in the sign of Scorpio. As always, if you're interested in a sort of outline of this video in email form automatically sent to you, then be sure to sign up for my email list to get your lunar gazette in the description box below. And for anybody who's been eyeballing the Auralign Astrology Planner, which is my creation, we are having our Black Friday sale now, starting today. So virtually everything on the site is not only 20% off, and my international friends, I got you. I've received your feedback in emails. We are now introducing a flat rate for shipping, but only for a limited time during this Black Friday sale. So if you're interested in ordering this as a Christmas gift for a fellow astrology lover, any of those things, be sure to check out this limited Black Friday deal. And with that said, let's dive into the video. A new moon marks the beginning of a new lunar cycle, where just as we see in the night sky, the moon is virtually invisible. It's this cosmic reminder of the significance and the importance of rest along our own journey and our own cycles in life. New moons are seen as a powerful time for rest and reflection, and really leaning into that in order to find clarity around different aspects of our life that we might have been called to really pause to process a bit more. And this is why you see many people doing new moon rituals, where they set aside some time to rest, reflect, get a bit grounded, and they often can really write out any intentions that they have for the new lunar cycle ahead, and also reflect on the previous lunar cycle. And that's why in the Auralign Astrology Planner, I added new moon journal pages, where every single month for every single new moon of the year, you have dedicated areas with journal prompts and spaces for you to write any new journal prompts, insights, ideas, or reflections that you have. And what's great is that it's in the same place that you end up planning your year. So it helps you to stay aligned in the process. And with that being said, we see that this new moon will be in the sign of Scorpio, bringing in themes of intimacy, control, power, money, and sharing. Now, both passionate and intuitive, Scorpio is associated with all things taboo. It's ruled by the 8th house of rebirth and transformation, which really helps to give you a bit of context as to why these topics are at the forefront of the Scorpio themes. Now, Scorpio is a great reminder of our emotional sensitivities, emphasizing all of our potentially pent-up feelings each time the moon enters its realm. Now, another area Scorpio is known for is heightened emotions around potential fears of loss, betrayal, or having our vulnerabilities exposed. Now, Scorpio new moons are generally good for working on self-mastery skills, a lot of times for those reasons. If we're open to it, and only if we are, an aspect of shadow work that we can do is pinpointing the things in our lives that make us feel a bit out of control. Things like addictions, debts, procrastinations on things that make us feel uncomfortable or stressed. But these are all things that we might personally feel are important on working on to free ourselves of any sort of emotional burden. We can also explore what is potentially missing in our lives that leads us to engaging in any potentially self-destructive behaviors. Now, I know that a lot of that can sound negative, or it can sound like, oh, that's a little bit of a downer, but it's important to remember, this is kind of why I don't fully identify with or resonate with the whole love and light only subsect of new age spirituality in the Western world. And that's because it can tend to, when I tell you about these things of looking into these shadow aspects of ourselves, it can kind of condition us to be oh, I don't want to hear about that. I want to only hear about the positive. But the reality is that historically and culturally, we see through most ancient societies and historical, spiritual, and religious subsects, we're encouraged to take time to reflect upon the shadow aspects of ourselves, areas of ourselves that we might have pushed to the shadows, or things that we don't consider to be positive or conducive with, interacting with the world in a sort of smooth way. But it's when we push these things away that we haven't fully processed them. And Scorpio really teaches us, and the themes around it, even in the 8th house, can really tend to highlight the power of looking at ourselves fully for exactly who we are, identifying any sort of weak spots or insecurities, and asking ourselves, where does that stem from? Where does maybe this limiting belief stem from? Like, is that from me? Is that from my parents, society? And reflecting upon it. And not everybody, I'm not saying that everybody should do this, but I do want to give you guys a full scope of many sides of the coin when it comes to different astrological signs, and not just always the positive. Overall, on one side of the coin, this new moon can definitely bring to the surface aspects of our shadows. And something to remember is that we all have shadow sides, or different areas of our lives that would benefit from being faced or processed. But a constructive way to approach when those feelings arise is often to inquire with ourselves where they stem from to begin with. On another side of the coin, Scorpio energy is very passionate. Again, a huge aspect of this is the 8th house. A large aspect of it is the ruler being Mars, where there's a lot of passion and energy, drive. And so now can also be a very passionate time in some more positive or constructive ways, where we find that starting something and tapping into what makes us passionate about it can be very conducive to starting this new lunar cycle and sort of riding this lunar wave. Next up, let's talk transits around the time of this new moon. So first up, we have Mars opposing Uranus. Now I wanted to start first with this transit that involves the traditional ruler of Scorpio, that being Mars, the planet of action and assertiveness. So whatever state that Mars is in at the time of this new moon will likely have a stronger impact on us because of its connection to Scorpio, which the moon is currently transiting in. So with that said, at the time of this new moon, we see that Mars will be in an opposition aspect with Uranus. Now this transit is one that can feel a bit difficult for many, so it can be very important to proceed with a bit of grace and also healthy boundaries during this time. Now this is because it's the type of transit that can tend to bring about a sense of anger or resentment that could potentially build to the surface and show up as things like impulsivity or potentially lashing out, or even for you might receive unexpected, lashing out or attacks. Generally speaking, this type of transit can impact the collective on an emotional level. Again, Scorpio and Mars really taps into our passion, but when we feel triggered in some ways, that passion could manifest as lashing out or a sensitivity among the collective. Now, in general, with these influences also coming together with Scorpio's impact on us through this new moon, impacting intensity and such, many could feel a little bit more sensitive than usual. And this can result in things like impulsivity or being a bit more reactionary. But if we're open to Scorpio's illuminating qualities that can help us, we can actually take this time to reflect on the root of these feelings through journaling, talking to loved ones, or even seeking things like talk therapy to process where these things might be coming from and how we are feeling. Now, as we know, Scorpio can often bring our shadow sides to the surface, and this can result in potential discomfort. But it could also lead to us facing and even transmuting these things in order to grow and transform. So overall, a constructive way to potentially ride these waves a bit can look like holding space for any uncomfortable or hard emotions through things like self-inquiry, asking ourselves what the root of this frustration or upset, and holding space for us to feel our feelings. And if we're experiencing others lashing out, remembering the power of healthy boundaries and community to support in order to help one another to move through these lunar influences. With that said, next up, if you've been feeling any sort of inner sense of restlessness or a calling to sort of change things up in your day-to-day or with relationships, then we also see that the sun and moon will also be opposing Uranus at the time of this new moon. So it can definitely usher in any feelings that we're having within those realms coming to a head around this time. And this is because what we see with this type of transit is there being this sort of calling to strike a balance between what could be a growing calling for independence or a need for community or emotional support. Now, this is because, as with all opposition aspects, they can manifest in our lives through a calling for balance between the opposing energies that the planets involved impact. So we have Uranus, the planet of originality, freedom, and transformation, and it's having this opposition aspect with the moon, which impacts our inner emotional and intuitive world, along with the sun, which impacts our sense of self and identity. They're really coming together here. So overall, during this new moon, we might notice that ourselves or within the collective, this inner calling to maybe shake things up a bit, maybe add a little spice to our lives, or maybe create some distance from distracting noises of the day-to-day. And with this being a new moon, any sort of clarity that we might find around this time could aid in ushering in a new chapter in our lives if we feel ready to initiate it at this time. And finally, if you've been looking for more connection, whether it be romantically, platonically, in community, or just connecting with yourself and your inner voice, then Mercury sextiling Venus at the time of this new moon will definitely be of help, as we'll see that it can help to usher in an opportunity for seeking these things. Now, what we usually see with this type of transit is it feeling a bit easier to express ourselves and connect with loved ones. And with Mercury and Venus coming together in this beautiful way, there will definitely be easier flowing energy when it comes to reaching for and finding any sort of help that you might be seeking. This is also the type of transit that can make things like date nights, outings, or hang out with friends feel even more grounded and a bit comfy. Or if you feel called to be on your own, the connection and communication that we have within ourselves and with our inner voice can feel a lot stronger right now. So whether it's connection through conversation or personally through journaling or self-care, the connections that we seek will likely feel a bit easier to fortify during this new moon. And by the way, if you have been somebody who's been eyeballing the 2024 Auralign Astrology Planner for yourself or as a holiday gift or a Christmas gift, then don't take my word for it that we're having a steep Black Friday sale that starts early. I invite you to check out the deals because it's 20% off site-wide, and we have great shipping deals, bulk deals, bundle deals, not just for everybody in the US, but for all of my international friends. We are finally doing it, so be sure to check it out. Okay, in terms of aligning with this new moon, this can be a really good time for focusing on some of the constructive traits within the sign of Scorpio. So that being passionate, resourceful, focused, probing, and one of their strongest characteristics that I love, very perceptive. We can consider how to positively incorporate these qualities into our lives or moving into this next lunar phase. And so taking steps towards things like self-mastery, like I mentioned before, a huge hallmark of Scorpio, self-empowerment by tackling things that might be undermining us or that might be taking away our power within the realms of Scorpio. So things like impulsive behaviors, any sort of debts, or addictions. These are all things that can be helpful to reflect upon around this time. Another huge aspect of Scorpio is shared resources. That's a really big aspect of the 8th house. So managing and handling shared resources, debts, or taxes more effectively can also be realms that we can reflect upon at this time. Next up, let's dive into collective perspective. So this is a segment that I introduced where I basically talk about the collective perspective of the current transits and ways that we can engage with our community through volunteer work that are in alignment with the current astrological events. So with the Scorpio new moon transits in consideration, these are some outreach opportunities that could be aligned with them. So the first one is learning about and potentially volunteering for crisis hotlines or counseling services. Now, this is an arena where individuals can provide support to those facing intense emotional struggles. And you can learn more about this type of volunteer work through websites like idealist.org or volunteermatch.org. These are sites that connect volunteers with crisis intervention prevention or mental health organizations, really helping us to help others who might be going through some emotional challenges or just life challenges at this time. Next up, considering that Scorpio is associated with the cycle of life and death, you can also consider volunteering for things like hospice or end-of-life care organizations. Organizations like Hospice Foundation of America and local hospice organizations' websites can definitely provide more information on how to get involved with this sort of work. And as always, I've left links in the description box below. Okay, and finally, let's get into these new moon journal prompts. What I will do is I will read out the prompts. You'll also see them on the screen. They'll be available in the video description, and you can go ahead and play the video, pause it when you see it on the screen, unpause, and we'll come back. And if you have your Auralign Astrology Planner, you can go ahead and flip over to the dedicated new moon journal section to write everything out, where there are dedicated areas for filling in these journal prompts, and there are other prompts in the planner. What is an aspect of your shadow side, if any, that could benefit from facing or working through? Why do you think that it became a shadow or something that you didn't process in the past? When was the last time that you felt fully free, seen, and accepted around others? What made you feel that way? In what ways do you think that you make others feel free, seen, and accepted? And finally, moving into this new lunar cycle, do you have any new intentions or goals? These can be new or existing and aligned with things like rest, personal, or even professional endeavors. If you made it to the end of this video, I would love for you to comment 3 red emojis. It can be any red emoji you'd like. I just know that Mars and Scorpio really are represented by that strong color red. And if not that, I'd love to hear what your perspective is on what I was talking about early in the video about, you know, this new age spiritual characteristic that I'm seeing of like only love and light, like not acknowledging shadow sides of ourselves or negative sides, or you know, kind of pushing that down a little bit, or running away from or not wanting to acknowledge the problems that we see in the world and kind of labeling it as low vibration, and things like that. Like, what's the nuance within that? Because obviously there is. Like, what's your perspective of it? And as a reminder about the perfect Christmas gift for you or any of your astrology-loving people in your life, check out the 2024 Auralign Astrology Planner, and everything is 20% off. This is a sale that we're probably not going to do again. This Black Friday sale that we're starting now. And for all my international friends, we are doing a flat rate on shipping costs because I know that they have been so astronomical. I've received your feedback. And if you are in Canada, if you spend over $150, then you get free shipping. And if not that, your flat rate is only $30. Everywhere else in the world is $40. Oh yeah. And so in terms of the giveaway, so I'm actually doing a giveaway on the Auralign Instagram page, which is linked in the video description. It's at Auralign Shop. We were originally going to just slowly do giveaways once a day for a few people until the end of November. But you guys need it as soon as possible, especially if you want the planner for the rest of this year, which is less than like 2 months. So if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram, and we are going to start giving away literally like 20 a day, 10 a day, 15 a day, to really speed up the process. So if that is something that interests you, I know we literally only have a few more months left. Just go over there. We have a bunch of fun content on there too, and I know you'll love it. So yeah. But with all of that said, I will leave you with my favorite quote, and that is, let's take a breath together. Okay. Be gentle with yourself, because life is about the journey, not the destination. All right. Peace, friends. See you in the next one.